We know you guys have missed us, so I hope you're ready for tonight. I think we're going to be a couple of live wires tonight, or something along those lines. I'm trying to come up with something funny, Candy, for Ghosts and Hauntings, and it's just not working.
Well, my list of those that I plan to haunt grew today.
No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen.
It did. Oh. It did. It did. Oh, hey, Alan, I wanted to show you your paranormal puppy. Yeah, that's the best part of the day, finally getting home after driving.
Oh my God, I know. When you said you were driving all day, I was like, oh my God, and we have a show tonight. We're going to be like...
My 13-year-old was like, I'll drive. And I'm like, oh, holy hell, man. No.
No.
Yes.
So
this week has been about...
Take it away.
Yeah, okay. So this week has been about, actually this month is dedicated to ghosts and hauntings, and they've brought up some really interesting subjects. Paisley, you are rocking those. You got to wear them for me.
We have the little diva in the house tonight, y'all. She loves to make an appearance every now and then. She knows we talk about ghosts. So I got the demon in the house tonight.
Hey, Princess Paisley. So
you were talking about widows, so
some of the most interesting ghost stories I've heard, domestically, I think were about the Winchester Mansion myself. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with that place, hearing how she built and built and built on it until the day she died. I thought that was one of probably the most interesting, historical ghost stories I've ever heard.
But have you seen, and we don't want to talk about TV shows, but the Ghost Adventures episode on that actually did the pictures of everything within the house, and I thought it was kind of cool that she had the staircases that just went nowhere.
Yeah.
They were narrow and narrow. I think that was kind of cool, but it makes me wonder, what did it look like when she first started?
Yeah. And to have, I don't know, to have the perpetuation of the psychosis to keep doing that and keep building, or, the experiences from the construction. We a lot of times like to, speculate that there's activity going on because of construction or that type of stuff. I would have loved to have seen it in its splendor. Oh my goodness. Here in Colorado, we have the Redstone Castle, and it's just amazing too. It was, it's got king board in it, king oak that's 12 to 24 inches wide. It's phenomenal. It's not like what you get back east with the plantations and those types of things, but it's still, it was still architecturally, a masterpiece. I loved it. And I'm not one that goes on the ghost tours. I don't do that sort of stuff. Just because I'm not really interested in the commercial side of it. I like to be able to get into some place and look around and
enjoy it.
And be trusted. You know what I mean? And that's something that I really work very hard on, is when I go there, that I have a respectable persona. I have some references that I can give and those types of things. But architecture's always fascinated me. I love Frank Lloyd Wright, and I used to do gravestone rubbings way back when I lived in New Hampshire, and I just, something about it, I just feel like I was either born a century too early or a century too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was an architect, and Frank Lloyd Wright was one of his favorites as well. So it's funny, I love going to the historical locations, or even watching, the episodes on TV about the historical locations. We have the Baker Hotel here locally that's got some great architecture as well. And I fell in love with it for the architecture, only to find out later that it's haunted. So now it's got two of my loves combined into it. I think my dad, if he were still alive, would have loved to have been able to go to the Baker. And I think he would have loved it once they get done remodeling it as well. There's something to be said about a building that has detail to it versus some of our modern day buildings today that just are boxes,
Yeah. Tally took me last week to Ouray, Colorado, and we got the opportunity to explore Ouray. And we even drove up to Silverton, Colorado. And then it's at 9,300 feet. And, its entire main street is old architecture. It's phenomenal. You go into these buildings, and the ceilings have the tile in them that looks Baroque. It's just phenomenal. And the attention to detail, the doors look like they're their own framed picture, And other than thinking I was going to get hauled off by the police, I'd love to have busted out with my audio recorder, Right. They were already kind of watching me, I was running around like a tourist, looking at everything.
What is she doing? Would you watch her? Because I'm afraid she's going to try to do something she's not supposed to.
My husband just walked around going, it's her birthday. And they're like, oh, okay. I thought they were going to let me park up front. I was like, hi.
And they're like, nope.
Well, and he spoils me. He spoils me. He goes and buys me all sorts of jewelry all the time. I know. It's beautiful. He finds me amazing stones. But those towns, they're lost in their own history, and part of the commitment of the town is to restore the buildings to their former glory. They don't really encourage that they go in and gut it and make it all trendy and unique inside. They ask that they reestablish it, and to build silver days. It's amazing stuff. And plus the country up here it's just beautiful, I'll take driving an hour and a half to Walmart, living here, getting to get up in the morning and, find deer in my yard and stuff like that.
I was going to say, yeah, the little luxuries that we don't get here, we just get to get up and go melt.
Texas, I have a whole different respect for you living in Texas. I think probably the biggest afro I ever had in my whole life was at Dallas International, Dallas Fort Worth. Oh my God, I barely got off the plane and my hair went I was wet everywhere. I was like walking around. I was like, oh no.
Disgusting. So you've been to DFW Airport? Mm-hmm. I live 10 minutes from there. So welcome to my hell with naturally curly hair that I straighten. Yeah, feel my pain. When we went to Las Vegas a couple years ago, it was a dry heat. My hair looked the best it has ever looked.
I loved my hair when I lived in Phoenix. I love that cat.
Yeah, but it's like here, oh my God. And it's like, why did I even bother straightening my hair today to walk outside for the... That's why everybody has big hair here in Texas. It's the humidity.
One of the things I think we're seeing on the NPS page is a trend where people are bringing psychological issues and trying to attribute it to a paranormal occurrence. Mm-hmm. I'm having a huge issue with it, because I feel that we are not doctors, and I do not believe that we can go in and run out a demon or somebody who's got something like Tourette's or PTSD. That post was really concerning for me.
Well, and we've seen a lot of it lately too, and I'm wondering, since when did NPS become the ground and the foundation for those kind of posts?
Well, we have some very strong reps and we have some very strong members who go in there and make sure that, we stress once everything explainable has been removed from the equation, what remains, however improbable, is paranormal. But we don't have people doing their due diligence at all. And we don't have people that are being very objective. And I feel like when I go to another page, I am their guest. And it is my job to act respectable. I kind of feel that people coming to our page, they're our guests. All 53 of us. Because there's a lot of time and selfless effort given. We have RNs on in our midst. We have every gamut of every profession you could possibly imagine: firefighters, engineers, students, theologians, executive assistants, business owners. I feel like common sense is getting lost. That we are so desperate to find the paranormal in every facet that we are unwilling to accept a scientific explanation, and all of a sudden science is taboo. My butt.
Yeah, when did that happen? Because I didn't get that memo.
No, me neither, and it's disconcerting. I feel like we make all these strides forward because we've really, in the last 60 days, changed the entire overtone of the page. Our teams are working tirelessly to bring information to the page and give positive, thought-provoking information to people. And, we're seeing fewer and fewer orb pictures, which tickles me.
I'm happy about on the photography side.
Yeah, I've got the photography group is pleased. But now we need to balance, the science, the spirituality, and the common sense. First we rule out, what can kill us, and then we can address what's torturing us.
Right.
Not everything's a ghost,
Not everything's normal. Well, was it yesterday? Yesterday I came home and there was an article, and I can't remember if it was in the rep section or if it was actually on NPS, that was talking about one of the psychology, I guess mental illness disorders, that was the explanation for people that felt like they were demonically possessed. And people don't think about, we have some mental illnesses that are defined and that are out there that we know about, but we don't know about anything and everything around that. There are still mental illnesses being discovered and being defined. And so we really don't know what is or is not. And that's the whole point of talking to your clients and asking questions. People get offended on the page when we start asking questions. Have you seen a doctor? Do you have this? Do you have that? They get offended like we're questioning them, and we're not. We're questioning to see, have you done what you needed to get the medical reason, explanation, examination before you've jumped to it being paranormal. And it floors me how many people want to skip that and just automatically assume that they've got demonic possession or it's something that's paranormal. To me, if it was something medical, I'd want to know so that I could take care of it and address it, because it could affect my health. To be overlooking that, to me, is a little irresponsible.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that we need to take into consideration too is what is our responsibility as investigators and researchers. I mean, I get a little put off by the "I am extremely gifted" comment. Okay.
Gifted at what? Bullshit.
No, well, no. I understand that you have gifts just like everybody else, but just because you're eternally unique does not make you useful. Mm-hmm. And I get offended. I get put off because they're offended by me asking them questions. Well, if you don't want to be questioned, don't come to the site, because that's what's going to happen. You're not going to have somebody pat you on the butt and say, "Oh, you poor thing. Throw your glitter on me, and let's see if we can come to a solution." I'm going to ask you, what can you do to prove what you're saying? Show me. It's not that I don't believe. Show me so that I can believe.
So I can understand it. It's the same thing. Let's go back to photography and orbs.
Hey.
If somebody hadn't done the experiments to see what dust looks like, we would have never had that. We need to know. We need to see it. Seeing's believing. I mean, come on. Prove to me that it is what you think it is and that it's not what I think it is. It's not being disrespectful or rude. It's just, I don't understand your side. I'm asking you questions for you to help me understand your side. Let's meet in the middle somewhere and let's compare notes and see what we come up with. It's not being rude or disrespectful. It's just, have you thought about everything? Because some people come to the page and they are just dead set from the very beginning. They're right on everything and they're not going to listen to anybody. And then they want to say everybody else was disrespectful for questioning things. Maybe some of us have seen something similar.
Well, like the Tourette's comment today. We had a post that got removed from the NPS page today about Tourette's possibly being a demonic possession, even though it's a proven, diagnosed, traceable situation. It's a neurological disorder. I have a friend, He's amazing. He's been my friend since I was a kid, but he has Tourette's, but he has a physical Tourette, not a verbal or local Tourette. And it started when he had a traumatic brain injury. He played football. He was playing college football for UCLA, and his left eye would blink, and his arm would kind of go like this. Sometimes cracked me in the face one time. I was sitting next to him.
Oh my gosh! Oh
yeah, Paul. It was hysterical though. His brother's like, I'm sitting there and I fell back, and he's like, "Where'd Candy go?" But he's like, "You killed her." I was just laying there, but I know for a fact it's not demonic, and I was shocked at the naivety of people thinking that the brain is such a mystery that we can't figure that one out. And
we haven't figured even half of it out. So what does that tell you?
But the parts that we have figured out, for the love of God, Tourette's is not demonic possession. But could you imagine 100 years ago somebody acting out like that? I'm positive that they were persecuted and crucified, mentally ill, spiritually possessed, and depending on what part of the country they were in, in the United States, like how 100 years ago in the Bible Belt, could you imagine?
Yeah. Well, it's like the same thing about speaking in tongues and everything else. I mean, we've come so far with our medical now, it makes me wonder how people were treated and diagnosed back then.
Right. Well,
I think the spirit got my daughter.
Hey, Paisley Bug, you tired?
I heard her snoring. You didn't see me. I was like, we're sitting here talking about these things, and I'm like, what is that?
Did you hear a demon growling, Sherry?
I'll be there. Just make here. Everybody night. Everybody night. Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
Hi, sugar booger. No, please. Well, and then there's so then we have specific, traceable, mappable neurological disorders like Tourette's, and then we have absolutely untraceable, like full-blown umbrellas like post-traumatic stress disorder. I think people pigeonhole PTSD, and PTSD is an evolving situation. PTSD can be the cause of alcoholism, substance abuse, spousal abuse. It can be, pulling your eyelashes out. It can be OCD, ADHD, ADD, ODD, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Those actual diagnoses are just symptoms of a larger disease. PTSD is a disease. It's not just a disorder. It's a whole self disease. It's like cancer. Because if it's not treated, it will kill you. It will eventually exacerbate and kill you. And I'm very familiar with PTSD. I have it. My husband has it. My children have it. We have not lived this little charmed life, and I've been around the block, and I've talked to you a little bit about it. And I've had more counseling. I've had enough counseling I could be a counselor. And done enough study and research on it, because that's at one point what I really thought I wanted to do. I found the most amazing book called Left Brain, Right Brain, and I've really been thinking about integrating it, piece at a time into NPS to see if we can start correlating some of these things together, because we have to marry the science to the spirituality.
Yep.
And we've got to find out how our brains are working. I am beside myself excited about having the Endeavor launch, because I think we are going to see some serious patterns establish themselves very quickly.
Well, and a lot of people don't know, and you talk about your exposure and your experience with PTSD. I have it with ADD and ADHD with my kids, and a lot that I found out, some people will go and just put their kids on medicine. I didn't want to do that with Nathan when he was in 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. So I did my research and looking around, and it floors me how much more is branched off from ADD or ADHD, or can be. Do you know that if people are bipolar, they've got some form of ADD or ADHD?
Yep.
You talk about all of these things kind of coming together. What else can be clicked in that just kind of pile on top of each other and keep growing. We still don't know everything about how our brains work. We still don't know which chemicals are in the brain, which ones that are lacking, what they cause, which ones that we produce too much of, what that causes. We don't know. We know that ADD and ADHD is a lack of dopamine in the brain, so what else could be out there that is lacking or not being produced enough of or being overproduced to cause some of these other issues going on? People want to say that it's paranormal, and I want to tell you, go get a health check.
Absolutely.
I would rather it be something that I can have my doctor define and tell me and either put me on a restrictive diet, a medication, some type of plan to correct, than to ever think that I've been demonically possessed. I mean, come on.
Right. Well, I've got something I'm going to kind of throw in here. I'm going to bring my husband Tally down here because he's had a death experience. Yeah. Actually, he got in a real severe car accident, rolled his vehicle 21 times. Here, let me introduce you guys. Here. I know, come here, baby. Saves me from griping about that broad on the thread.
Right? Please come save us.
All right, NPS, I'd like to introduce you to my other half. This is my husband, Tally Meehan. Tally, I want you to tell everybody. I would like for you to tell everybody about your death experience and the changes and the lights you saw.
Well, which part? Start. I rolled my car 21 times off into a canyon. I got out of the car and was able to tie my jacket around my head and walked 2.5 miles out of the canyon to a friend's house, bleeding fairly badly the whole time. Anyway, I got to my house, and of course, with being an obstinate ass, you know, I'm a man. I'm not going to go to the doctor. All that. You know, I'm invincible kind of thing when you're young and dumb. And I ended up dying that night. I ended up actually suffocating. What happened was I had broke 4 vertebrae and had 4 skull fractures, among other things. But those were the major things that caused my experience. And what happened was the bones in my back slipped and pinched the nerve that goes to my lungs. And so basically my lungs quit working. So, and of course,
How long was this accident?
Yes, this was after the accident. This was approximately about 4 hours after the accident. Well, it was more than that because I went to work that day. I wrecked that night. They kept me up all night because they were afraid of a concussion. I had chunks of skull sticking out of my head, so it was a little more than a concussion. But then I went to work the next day, and I was running a cutoff saw, cutting down concrete walls, and I started the first cut and knew I was in trouble. And was taken back home to my house where that happened.
Wow.
The next thing I know, I'm sitting in my recliner saying, hey, we got to do something. We got to get to the doctor or something. I know I'm in trouble. The next thing I know, I'm standing outside of myself, and I can tell you the colors of the carpet, the pattern in the carpet, it was absolute amazing visual. And the one thing that I can tell is everything was perfect. I was looking at myself and where I should have been afraid or grieving about my kids. My kids were pulling on my arm saying, Daddy, Daddy, you know, and everybody around me was freaking out. Well, you know, watching. And the only thing I say is I knew exactly where I was. I mean, it absolutely solidified my spirituality and everything because I knew that everything was absolutely okay. There's never in my life been another point in my life when everything was that perfect.
Wow.
Now, I knew that it wasn't my time to go, but it eliminated any fear of dying. I just knew that it wasn't my time, but it was the most amazing, wonderful, contented feeling. And then after that, I had several different, when I came to that realization that it wasn't my time to go, it was like being teleported or something. Next thing I know, I was sitting back in the recliner, and they had my head propped up and in a horse collar, and I was breathing again. And I had several different. At that point, we went to the doctor, and I had several other things go on after that. The one thing that I can't stay and I can't keep down is the chronology of what happened over the next 3 years. However, at that point, we chose to go to the doctor. I, of course, was very combative, standard head injury kind of reaction, as well as being a young man and very obstinate young man that I wasn't, I was pretty much invincible. Didn't have the common sense to go along with my stubbornness at that point in my life. So I ended up going to the doctor. They took me in, took x-rays, and instantly freaked out, freaking out because why in the hell are you walking around like this? You've got chunks of skull sticking out of your head. You've got 4 vertebral fractures, 4 skull fractures, damaged your, I had lacerations on my head, of course, and on my face. I had damaged my ribs, a multitude of other things that went on. And so they put me in a horse collar, put me on a backboard. And as we were leaving the clinic, they said, we're going to give you something for the pain. That's the last thing I remember for 3 months. There's no recollection of anything. And after that, after coming out of that, after going to the doctors and doing whatever they did and however long I spent in the doctors, after coming out of that, my next memory is standing in my bathroom and being completely lost. Knowing that I should be able to pull my pants up. That was a simple procedure, but not being able to put 2 and 2 together. Could not figure out how to bend over, pick my pants up, pull them up, and button them. Not that I didn't know that was what was supposed to happen, but I couldn't make my muscles do what they needed to do. I couldn't process that process to the point where I could actually do it myself. I ended up having, at that point, my aunt had been taking care of me for some time. A month or so. I don't really know exactly how long I'd been out of the hospital, but she had been taking care of me, and she had to come in and clean me. And at that point, I made a decision that I was either going to die or that I was going to get better. I wasn't going to be in this in-between where I had to have my aunt wipe my ass. I just wasn't going to do it. It took me 3 years, and I had some of the most amazing spiritual experiences during those 3 years. I can't put 90% of it in order still to this day, but I ended up having several different medical problems throughout that related to that accident.
You had to learn to walk again.
I had to learn to walk properly again, and I still walk sometimes, especially if I've had a beer or two. I still walk with a limp sometimes, and I don't walk. How
long has it been now since all this happened?
That happened in 2003, so it's been almost a little over 11 years.
Wow.
And it took 3 years, and I had to go back to the first grade level education, rewriting my letters, being able to speak in language, above a first grade. Now, I was able to recoup a lot of knowledge and actually improve quite a bit. Before my accident, I couldn't write. I was horrible at English. And I'm not great at English anymore, anyway, but I'm a whole bunch better than I ever was before because I had to go back and I had to learn everything over again. I had to spend every day. I could only stay awake for about 4 hours at a time.
And so you're focusing on trying to do your improvement and your, what do you call it? I'm brain dead tonight, but working on all your speech pattern skills and that type of thing in that amount of time. I mean, I'm sure that got tiring after a while as well.
It got tiring, as well as I had a myriad of other problems. I was in the middle of a divorce. I was trying to fight for custody of my child, and there were a huge amount of other problems going on at that time in my life. And I had some of the most profound experiences that, they were personal experiences. There's nothing that can validate them on beyond what I had myself. But I had things that just you hear about and are just never validated. I was standing in the middle of a a windstorm, horrible windstorm one time shortly after this with my aunt. I owned 80 acres at this time, out on a farm, and we were out in the middle of the field in this just amazing windstorm, and all of a sudden we had butterflies everywhere, all these monarch butterflies, and with the amount of wind, they shouldn't even have been able to fly, and they just fluttered around like the wind meant nothing to them. It was, and the feeling that came along with that, just this, it was amazing, and it's just this amazing connection with something else that went on. I had orbs at one point. I had a yellow, a blue, and a red at different times come up, and they weren't like anything that I can describe as far as, it was blatantly obvious. It was a translucent ball of light that moved with purpose. It wasn't something that just randomly came out of the air. It wasn't a split second thing, and to this day it gives me goosebumps to talk about this stuff. It gives me it does. It's one of those things, and I had it changed a whole bunch of what my life was about, as well as the direction it was going in, the things that I would accept in my life. Prior to this experience, I was in a horrible relationship, and it just everything became really. I was led to where I'm at now.
Absolutely.
I wasn't, I didn't do it on my own, and I had lots and lots of challenges that I went through, and had some of the most amazing experiences. And a part of that, I think, was my mind rebuilding itself. And then a part of it, I absolutely believe, was the spiritual side of that. But there was one time when I was fighting this 4-hour block I had, and I still had a very, very driven desire to support my family and do I had kids at this point, and I had responsibilities that were absolutely weighing on my ability to be a man, and accept myself as a husband and a father, and those things weighing on my mind. And so I pushed myself very, very hard, and a lot of times when I would get to that point where I was literally falling out, and by falling out I mean I would be in the middle of a hike, walking down a trail, and have to lay down and go to sleep on the trail, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. They just had to wait. I couldn't drive 3 hours without taking 2 breaks in between, just because the stress of concentrating and driving was so taxing on me that I would have to pull over and sleep for a 3-hour drive took me 5 to 6 hours, so I'd have to stop a couple of times. But I saw things, and it could be contributed to the head injury or the spirituality or whatever you want. For me, it was spirituality. I saw things that I had never seen before, but later found out was relative. I was up on the Uncompahgre Plateau, which was fairly famous for a Ute Indian hunting area, and saw Indians, and later found out through the Forest Service that where I was at was actually their racetrack, where they raced their horses. And I found campsites that I didn't know anything about, and later found out when I was on a fire and ended up in that same place that this was one of their campsites, and this is where they on their hunting trek or expedition, this was one of the campsites that they built as a base campsite for hunting the animals around there. And found had a very weird experience with a large amount of bears. If you know anything about bears, bears are not pack animals. They are very isolated. And I ended up in within 100 feet of over 7 bears. And it was just some of those experiences that are absolutely I can't explain, and that have been validated in other aspects, like ending up seeing Indians, and then ending up 6 months later on a fire, clearing a dozer line, and ended up in that same spot. And the Forest Service guy going, "Oh yeah, we got to preserve this because this was the Indians' racetrack, and it's sacred to them, and we can't mess it up and everything." Things like that.
Well, and see, how we were talking about the traumatic brain injuries and those types of things and the neurological disorders. Many people would just go ahead and dismiss exactly what he just said. And
lots of the people on the members page think that's exactly what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe it's personal experiences, but can we prove a lick of it?
No. There's absolutely no way to prove it. You know, and it's great to see some of that and use that as hope that, you know, we'll be able to validate some of this stuff later on in life and deal with it. But as far as personal experiences go, in my experience, you know, that's exactly what they're personal. They're not scientific. And, you know,
going through and being able to tie back that you couldn't remember this, that, and the other, or that you had to take these breaks every now and then, I would hope that going forward that would help us as we're trying to validate these personal experiences and show some proof to them that maybe marrying science to that, we can say for somebody in your situation that dealt with that, I mean, you went through those 4-hour stints, I'm sure, for a long time. Eventually,
yes,
we can have the technology to tie to you or be able to monitor you to be able to put the two together. Until somebody comes up with it and thinks about it, it's never going to happen. And hopefully, with us having Endeavor and starting to push that way, we might start getting some people's attention to start tying it together. I don't doubt your personal experiences because everybody knows my stories with butterflies.
Right.
So I have my own personal experience, and to hear other people talk about monarchs in particular, we have that in common. I don't think that's coincidence.
Well, see, and I don't know. That's news to me. You know, I have never heard. I'd love to hear your story sometime because I had never heard that you had an experience with monarchs as well. So
I have. My dad visits me as a monarch, and my dad told me my dad was in a vegetative state on a Saturday evening, and we were taking him off life support that Sunday, and that's when my dad passed. My dad came to me through a friend of mine. See, now I'm getting goosebumps. My dad came to me through a friend of mine and told me that he would always be with me in the form of a butterfly, and knew that I loved butterflies. And to this day, I have a monarch that is always around me. When I've had a bad day, when I've had a great day, when I'm upset, my daughter sees it. So it's spiritual and it's a personal experience for me. But to hear you talk about monarchs and butterflies are known as rebirth, it makes my heart smile.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
You got 10 minutes, baby.
All right. Well, see now. There it is, right out there for the whole world to see that I am not a skeptical ass.
But you know, his experiences are something to really think about, because he made a couple of comments about not being able to pull up his pants and not being able to coordinate motor skills with the brain. People just, we take for granted how much we do on a daily basis that's driven by up here.
He really minimalized the stint that he doesn't recollect. You know, his mom and his aunt have told me all about it. He had a traumatic brain injury. When he had the vertebral fractures and the skull fractures, if he ever turns around, he wears his hair very military cut all the time. Stop! He's got scars like you just can't believe all over his head. They let him lay there in that chair and die. And when they finally got him to the hospital, or actually the clinic down here, they freaked out so bad that when they sedated him, they lost him for months. And you know what's really ironic is that he was alert. He was awake. He slept like a normal person. Well, not a normal person. I guess for like the first week or two, you know, they had him kind of in a medically induced coma. He started coming out of it, but his brain injury, he had to learn to walk and talk and read and write, and he still can't. He's still like a serial punctuator. He can't figure out where shit goes and to capitalize. And we run a business, so I proofread everything. You know, when I was working at my job in Grand Junction before we took over the company up here, he'd email me stuff and have me correct it and send it back to me, cut and paste it and send it. I mean,
it's amazing that he could even get to that point with everything that's happened. And it goes back to, people talk about the left brain and the right brain and what each controls in our body. I mean, it's unbelievable that he is still sitting there and able to communicate with us today.
Well, and you know, and his personal experiences that he had when his neural pathways were rebuilding themselves, you know,
you know, whether they were rerouting or rebuilding, you know, it opened him up to experiences that we can't relate to. And, you know, I see that all the time on the page. And
you know what? Did it open up a part of his brain? Remember, we haven't touched every part of our brain. Did it open up a part of his brain that allowed him to have those experiences that when everything got kind of set back, maybe they didn't
took him back. It took him back developmentally. Let's think about this now. It took him developmentally back to being 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yep.
And to me that's a pretty profound correlation. You know, when you have all these little kids making all these claims, and then him having his experiences, and they stuck with him. You know, and I know, you know, and I asked him 1,000 questions when we started talking about this and getting to know each other. Oh yeah, and he was patient and objective, and that is one of the things. I guess, you know, sometimes maybe I'm asking too much from people to emotionally stand aside from what we're talking about, but when it's their personal experience, you know, it's kind of like asking me to, you know, stand aside from somebody punching me, you know what I mean, and reiterate. So, and I'm compassionate. You know, that was one comment made to me today, that I wasn't very compassionate, and it kind of makes me laugh.
That comment does not know you.
I know, right? Just, you know, my animals, like my kids.
Seriously? Have you ever talked to Candy? I mean, come on.
Well, it was just kind of ironic, you know. We can't pat everybody on the ass, and we're not going to. But what we are going to do is stand right next to you and figure out as much of it as we can and support you so we can move forward.
That means asking questions. I mean, here we go back again. How do you learn as kids? You ask the who, when, where, why, and what. Why is it as we get to be adults that's no longer acceptable?
Eric, I never poke you. Not literally.
We might crack some whips on the page.
Because we love you, man. That's how we roll, right?
Yeah, she didn't deny the whip.
Any implement will do.
Flogger, whip, whatever.
Spatula. Don't make me throw my glasses at you, because then I'm pissed. Okay? Not the fucking shoes.
All right, now you got to put money in the swear jar. Alex has been making us put money in the swear jar tonight. I told him I'd buy the house by the time the show was done.
I swear, because all the good adjectives will not come to my brain.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think, you know, people need...
Indiana Jones with boobs. Did you see this? Who's cheese whiz?
My God.
Oh, my God. You're kidding me. Dude, I am the mom that goes
you owe $1. You owe $1 for that F-bomb. I wonder how much I owe for my bullshit. See, I did it twice.
Double or nothing. Did you see that?
You ready to go to Vegas with this money we're putting in the swear jar tonight?
I know, right?
No, I owe $2.
That'll be a whole other meeting we have to do, you know, Gamblers Anonymous, you know. Get on the page and
not lose it because of the damn spirits. It's paranormal.
No kissing.
Aww.
No kissing. She missed me today. It was thundering and stormy out here. It scares her. She's only about 6 months old. Her name is Aoife.
Oh, she's so cute.
Mm.
It's so cute.
Yeah, Ellen has a schnauzer, and I think her name is Izzy. These need to be pictures of her.
Aww. Rob, you're like late coming on. Look at that.
Oh, Rob!
All of our reps in the room.
I know. They're wonderful people. We've got the best crew, people. Oh my God. I sit there and look at the rep page sometimes, and I'm like, wow. You know? Just amazing.
Well, and it's funny, you know, you talk about the mix of people and the experiences, man.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah. I'm so proud of everybody.
We've been kicking some ass lately, actually, you know?
Yeah. We've really, like I said, with all the reps work, we've really changed the tone of the page. You know, we still get some people grandstanding, but it's not tolerated. You know, people, some of them are taking their ball and showing the way home. You know,
ball's thrown over the fence, and when they go to chase it, it's closed.
Here, boys. Here, have you met my boys?
Mm-hmm. You had them on not too long ago.
Yeah, this is Brian. Brian, this is Sherry. Say hi, Brian.
Hi.
You're on the show. Say hi. It's not just the camera. Get in there close so everybody can see you.
16-year-old, my 18-year-old.
Trouble.
Right, the little one's upstairs. He's having none of it. He's mad.
Oh, is he pouting or is he mad?
Mad.
Where's Miss Raven tonight?
Can you go get your sister?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
No, don't. We'll go through it. Thanks.
Tell her to get off the chats. Tell her to quit playing on NPS tonight.
Dude, she's the one who told me that woman was saying nasty stuff about me. She wanted me to pull over next to Ridgeway. She's like, you're not going to believe this. She showed it to me, and she's like, I'm furious. She was going to write something. I was like, no, you got to be subtle, baby.
Yeah. Simmer. Well, and I had such a crazy day today. I didn't even, I was poking in and out, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And by the time I could poke back in again, I'm like, okay, everything's done with. Hey! Oh, he's got a big old smile on his face. What were you doing?
Doesn't look like his dad at all, does he?
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
You should see the pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
You got to have Kate show it to me.
Oh, no, wait, we got one last one. The Meehan Zoo.
The motley. There she is. There's the motley crew.
I know.
Were you helping Mom out today or what?
I was upstairs with my boyfriend. Get out of here.
You were upstairs with your boyfriend. That door better be
open. No. On the phone.
Oh, okay. I was about to say. Mom?
No. The pond is very small here.
Pond? What are you talking about, pond?
Is that a good pond or a bad pond?
Charlie.
That's almost like the members page going on in the background there.
I know, right? Everybody's like, how do you handle the chaos? Dun, dun, dun. And here she is.
First-hand experience.
She's sitting on my leg going.
She's like, what is all this business? What is going on? Kate's house could never be haunted. There's just too much stuff going on in it. The ghost would really have to do something spectacular to overlook kids.
These are my minions.
Now we know why you like minions so much.
I know, right? I got my tribe. I think NPS is completely on the right track. I couldn't be prouder of people. And, and I am willing to consider all points of view and processes. Oh my God, if you have a way to help us build a better mousetrap and give us perspective, let's do it. And I am totally approachable, folks. You send something to my inbox, I promise you I'll answer you.
She may be driving.
That's something to
take her the day to do it, but she will respond.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, like I said, we live very remotely, and if we have to go to town for anything, it's at least an hour and a half drive, depending on weather, and that could be doubled very quickly because we live by Telluride, Colorado. So you can imagine, we're in the midst of mountains. But if you, what is that saying?
They're talking about the one-eyed and two-eyed minions. Remember we had this conversation?
Depends if I slap them and poke them in the eye. Girlie.
We're so bad. We're so bad. I was on that radio show Sunday night talking about it, and it got a lot of attention. People are ready for it. People are eager to start putting some information in that baby. So I think we're going to have some stuff the very first year. I mean, we were talking about it might be lagging. It may take a little bit. But you know what? There's so many people that are interested in pushing things forward. I think it's just going to blow up. And I think it's going to be awesome.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. Our webmaster, holy God, he is like,
Iron Man of the internet.
Yeah.
No, and Jen and Ruth. Oh my God, Ken, Jen, and Ruth. I mean,
The three
they're like
of
the
them, man.
He must hear the
Yeah. You talk about some forces to reckon with. Oh my God.
They're making the site amazing, and the department chairs are putting in some just phenomenal submissions. I mean, we have got such a gamut of information; it's astounding.
Well, we've got another show that wants to talk to us about NPS too.
What?
Man, they make a lot of noise.
No, it's the boys too. It's not even the girl.
That was you.
Well, you know what they say? The boys are always more drama than the girls.
I know, right? And you know who the worst instigator is? The husband.
The husband.
Me. Right here.
The husband. Troublemaker. Troublemaker.
See, once it's cute, I don't know what I'd be.
You might have to hurt him.
I know, right? That's
would-
just foreplay. Freaking Alan. I did the same thing. Cry, baby?
Ugh, whatever.
I know, right?
Bitch, right?
I know, right? Meredith's on it. She gets it.
See, they're just proving that it's always the men that are the drama queens, not the women.
No, when Raven starts freaking out, she just clears the house. It's like the hell. Even the dogs evacuate. Seriously.
Have you met Raven? I mean, that poor child.
She's a good girl. I don't even know what I was going to say. Oh, about the other radio show. What did they want to talk to us about, honey?
They want us to talk about NPS and about Endeavor.
I think Endeavor's really, I think Endeavor can become, the paranormal project. You know what I mean? Not just ours, but the entire paranormal community's project. I mean, and it is. It's a collaborative and collective effort of everyone. Who's an ex-state rep?
The guy that hosts the show is an ex-state rep.
Who's that? Is that Bruce?
Nope.
Who is it? John
Edwards.
Oh, hey, yeah. State
I'm like, come on, click.
Oh, dude, you have to forgive me. We've gone through a lot of reps, and when we had the 50 state reps.
What? We've had a lot of reps. Yeah, he was one of the 50 state reps.
That's years ago.
That was like, when did NPS start?
2011.
Yeah, it's been about 3 years since we've had state reps.
I think I may vaguely remember him. I don't remember him in a negative way whatsoever, so I can't, there's only like 1 or 2 reps that have left with a bang, but everybody else has been really respectful, kind of going in and out, at their comfort level, and that's what I want. That's why we have so many people doing so many things right now. We have some people who really aren't comfortable manning the members page that are just blowing up the teams and working their butts off. And Ashley needs a pat on the back. She just kicked the crap. Ashley and David have kicked the crap out of the international. I'm so proud of them.
That thing, I don't know what happened. It's like somebody set it on the top of a hill. And
I know, right?
There, I'm like, what the hell is going on over there? They lit a match to it, and off it went.
Who's Cheese Whiz?
Alex.
Oh, Alex. What?
Cheese. He's being cheesed tonight.
I thought he would be
not getting in trouble. Now you owe $2 for being anonymous in the chat room. See,
Gandalf. Oh, fun. Oh,
our crazy little reps.
Did you hear that?
What was that?
Never mind.
Oh my God.
Stop it!
She cracks a whip. I promise you, she cracks a whip.
The husband's
Yeah.
Yes.
The husband's starting it. It's a lot harder to discipline him.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So funny. What are we doing next week on the show?
Isn't it photography or is it Endeavor?
Well, let's see. It'll officially be the second week of Ghost and Hauntings.
Third, I think.
Yeah, the second week. Officially the second week.
Okay.
So I'll flick and see who's on next week. I know this week we talked about unknown haunted locations. I'm not sure what we're doing next week.
Maybe we can get in some international haunted locations.
That'd be
Get
awesome.
Ashley or David on here.
That would be awesome.
I think that would be cool.
That would be fun to talk about. They seem to have a lot of really badass places.
Oh, God. And some phenomenal pictures. Oh, so jealous. I want to go over there so bad.
That's what we should do. That's what we should do. All right, you want to give a shout out to our sponsors because we're right at about a minute before show end.
All right, we'd like to thank the National Paranormal Society for bringing us all together here today. Visit us on our website, www.national-paranormal-society.org. Also, we'd like to give a shout out to Blessed Bee, www.blessedbe.cc, your one-stop occult shop.
Finish it up. So next week we'll figure out what we're going to do. We'll see if we can get either Ashley or David. We'll talk about some international locations. And we'll have some fun with that. So, till next week, folks, we'll see you on the NPS page.
Bye, everybody.
Night. Nope.
Well, and he spoils me. I mean, he spoils me. He goes and buys me all sorts of jewelry all the time. I know. It's beautiful. He finds me amazing stones. I mean, but those towns, I mean, they're lost in their own history, and part of the commitment of the town is to restore the buildings to their former glory. They don't really encourage that they go in and gut it and make it all trendy and unique inside. They ask that they reestablish it, and to build silver days. It's amazing stuff. And plus the country up here it's just beautiful, I'll take driving an hour and a half to Walmart, living here, getting to get up in the morning and, find deer in my yard and stuff like that.
I was going to say, yeah, the little luxuries that we don't get here, we just get to get up and go melt.
Texas, I have a whole different respect for you living in Texas. I think probably the biggest afro I ever had in my whole life was it Dallas International, Dallas Fort Worth. Oh my God, I barely got off the plane and my hair went poof. I was wet everywhere. I was like walking around. I was like, oh no.
Disgusting. So you've been to DFW Airport? Mm-hmm. I live 10 minutes from there. So welcome to my hell with naturally curly hair that I straighten. Yeah, feel my pain. When we went to Las Vegas a couple years ago, it was a dry heat. My hair looked the best it has ever looked.
I love my hair when I lived in Phoenix. I love that crap.
Yeah, but it's like here, oh my God. And it's like, why did I even bother straightening my hair today to walk outside for the... That's why everybody has big hair here in Texas. It's the humidity.
One of the things I think we're seeing on the NPS page is a trend where people are bringing psychological issues and trying...
Welcome to NPS Focus. We know you guys have missed us, so I hope you're ready for tonight. I think we're going to be a couple of live wires tonight or something along those lines. I'm trying to come up with something funny, Candy, for Ghost and Hauntings, and it's just not working.
Well, my list of those that I plan to haunt grew today.
No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen.
It did. It did. Oh, hey, Al. I wanted to show you your paranormal puppy. That's the best part of the day, finally getting home after driving.
Oh my God, I know. When you said you were driving all day, I was like, oh my God, and we have a show tonight. We're going to be like...
My 13-year-old was like, I'll drive. And I'm like, oh, holy hell, man. No.
No.
Yes.
So
this week has been about...
Take it away.
Yeah, okay. So this week has been about, actually this month is dedicated to ghosts and hauntings, and they've brought up some really interesting subjects. Paisley, you are rocking those. You got to wear them for me.
We have the little diva in the house tonight, y'all. She loves to make an appearance every now and then. She knows we talk about ghosts. So I got the demon in the house tonight.
When I go there, that, you know, I have a respectable persona. You know, I have some references that I can give and those types of things, but architecture's always fascinated me. I love Frank Lloyd Wright. And I used to do gravestone rubbings way back when I lived in New Hampshire. And I just, something about it, I just feel like I was either born a century too early or a century too late.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
You know, my dad was an architect, and Frank Lloyd Wright was one of his favorites as well. So it's funny, I love going to the historical locations or even watching, you know, the episodes on TV about the historical locations. We have the Baker Hotel here locally that's got some great architecture as well. And I fell in love with it for the architecture, only to find out later that it's haunted. So now it's got two of my loves combined into it. I think my dad, if he were still alive, would have loved to have been able to go to the Baker. And I think he would have loved it once they get done remodeling it as well. There's something to be said about a building that has detail to it versus some of our modern day buildings today that just are boxes, you know?
Yeah. You know, Tally took me last week to Ouray, Colorado, and we got the opportunity to explore Ouray, and we even drove up to Silverton, Colorado. And, you know, it's at 9,300 feet, and, you know, its entire main street is old architecture. It's phenomenal. You go into these buildings, and the ceilings have the tile in them that looks Baroque. It's just phenomenal, and the attention to detail. The doors look like they're their own framed picture, you know. And I would, well, other than thinking I was going to get hauled off by the police, you know, I'd love to have busted out with my audio recorder, you know. Right. They were already kind of watching me, you know. I was running around like a tourist, you know, looking at everything.
What is she doing? Would you watch her? Because I'm afraid she's going to try to do something she's not supposed to.
My husband just walked around going, it's her birthday. And they're like, oh, okay. I thought they were going to let me park up front. I mean, I was like, hi. Hey, Princess Paisley. So.
You were talking about windows, so.
So some of the most interesting ghost stories I've heard, you know, domestically, I think were about the Winchester Mansion myself. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with that place, hearing how she built and built and built on it until the day she died. I thought that was one of probably the most interesting, like, historical ghost stories I've ever heard.
But have you seen, and you know, we don't want to talk about TV shows, but the Ghost Adventures episode on that actually did the pictures of everything within the house, and I thought it was kind of cool that she had the staircases that just went nowhere.
Yeah.
They were like narrow and narrow. I think that was kind of cool, but it makes me wonder, what did it look like when she first started? You know?
Yeah. And to have, I don't know, to have the perpetuation of the psychosis to keep doing that and keep building, or, you know, the experiences from the construction. You know, we a lot of times like to, speculate that there's activity going on because of construction or that type of stuff. I would have loved to have seen it in its splendor. Oh my goodness. Here in Colorado, we have the Redstone Castle, and it's just amazing too. It was, it's got king board in it, you know, king oak that's like 12 to 24 inches wide. It's phenomenal. It's not like what you get back east with the plantations and those types of things, but it's still, you know, it was still architecturally, you know, a masterpiece. I loved it. And I'm not one that goes on the ghost tours. I don't do that sort of stuff. Just because I'm not really interested in the commercial side of it. I like to be able to get into some place and look around and
enjoy it.
And be trusted. You know what I mean? And that's something that I really work very hard on is when I